Hello. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Yeah, we can now. Can you hear us?
Yeah, there we go.
Hi.
In the background, I have a senior daycare dog on his first day, so he's in the office with me, so he's snoring in the back right now.
No worries.
No problem.
And then we've changed things since the whole COVID thing. We've been recording like consultation Zooms and then training lessons and uploading them. Just if you ever need a reference point, you can always go back to that, or you can even just watch other people. So
Awesome.
Shelley.
Shelley.
She's doing good, but I think you might be able to tell us more or less, or definitely I think the daycare has been helping. I know walking wise she's doing awesome, or at least much better than pre.
And we had a list of things to connect with you on, but we'd love to just hear your thoughts on how you think she's doing as well.
Sure. So for puppies and like her age and everything, in terms of with the puppy head start and like the clicker training and the food training that she's doing well. And the walk, of course, she does really well on. That's in part due to like my handlers. They know how to use the leash in a way that gives them the most control, so that even a dog that's not trained walks well. Mm-hmm. But then, because we do this now it's daily. We go for a walk now, that it creates the habit of just, it's not so much a heel, but just like walking without being like, all over the place. Right. I know after you had noted something about the recall command or come uncalled, right? And I told my handlers to press that a bit more when they're doing the clicker training and stuff. The only drawback to that with the puppy head start here is that, she's either out in the facility space where it's open or in the puppy training room, mm-hmm. which is very different from, if she's at the dog park or if you're at the park with her and she's like sniffing and doing her doggy thing. It's a very different context. And that's where there's going to be like a disconnect, if you will. But otherwise, she's a golden, she's smart, she picks up on things quickly. She does well with the training sessions. So go ahead and tell me like your notes and what you have in mind and things on Shelley.
Sure. Yeah. So we have a list of kind of a bunch of random things, but so she has been doing better with come actually and recall. Mm-hmm. We've been working on it more. This may be just in my head, but we started bringing like better treats for her. Like one she just likes more.
Sure.
She's like in a certain mood and she'll come more if she knows we have like chicken as opposed to like her little training treats. You know what I mean?
Correct.
This isn't like maybe a good thing, but at least she comes when we call her.
Right. So with food-based training, it comes down to the context. So like I personally, when I train dogs myself, I use chicken, turkey, deli meat, pepperoni, cheese sticks. If I have steak, I'll use steak, rotisserie chicken from like Jewel and all that stuff. And I like take out all the meat and everything. And I'll sometimes mix it with their kibble just to like give some texture and flavor. And I will rotate through these things. So I use human food because it's like, sure, I could pay $10 for bacon flavored treats, or I could just pay $10 for bacon and I could eat some too. So, the treats is just something that was made in the pet industry is like a money thing. But dogs, they're technically supposed to be eating, raw diet. They'd hunt for their, birds and squirrels and all that stuff if left in the wild. Mm-hmm. So I have no problem using that for training myself. And when it comes to, when you're working with puppies, and if you've used kibble and that's kind of lost its incentive, and you use treats, higher value treats, whether it's freeze dried or whatever, and then that kind of loses its value depending on the context. So then you go outside, and that's typically where these things are less effective. And then I tell people like, carry higher value like cheese or something with you. But then again, like if you were to go to the dog park with her and she's playing with dogs and you have chicken, you're still at a disadvantage because she may think like, well, I see these guys for like 10, 15 minutes once a week, and I can get that chicken later on tonight.
At home. Yeah.
You know, so
bring
it's
higher
perfectly fine that you're
values.
doing that. But that's just in terms of food only training, you're gonna hit a ceiling at some point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so we had a question for you on harness versus collar. So she, every time we put her collar on or her harness, she like shudders. Does she do that with you? Like if we put her, go ahead. Yeah.
I'd have to ask my handlers, but from what I've seen, no, we just put the slip on her. Like she's ready to come out.
Okay.
With us, it's like she hides. We have to, even though it only means good things. Like never has she ever had a bad experience with it on. We have to.
Is this every time you go to take her out?
Yeah, every single time.
When did you start seeing it?
And even when she was little, the harness, putting that
When
on
she was born.
Oh, it
ton of
sounds like
nerves.
she's. I'd have to double check with my handlers for sure, because I usually prep the dogs, and then if I'm taking part of the pack walk, I'll come out and then grab but everybody's already set up. But I'm pretty sure from what I've seen, like she's ready to go.
Okay.
The only thing I can think of is if she's a really super soft, submissive personality, when you move towards her, dogs can't help but feel confrontation. Okay, so when you move towards
when she's not submissive.
She's not?
No, like I would say not super submissive. Like even Maddie, your girl, we use Maddie. We love Maddie, by the way. Very resilient. Like she's not super submissive, and she'll see the collar. We don't even have to go through. Like if I'm not even looking at her holding it, it's like other room. Like whoop.
But you said she shudders. She's not playing the game. She's not like running away like play chase.
I don't think so.
Occasionally it is, but it's more often than not. Like even putting her collar around her neck, it's like
she'll just sit there and go, oh, and literally like the movement, and then she'll sit there like this, like back arch for like a minute, and then be like, okay, we can go. I'm like,
that's interesting.
Her.
Yeah, I'd have to I'll send you guys a message. I'll make a note of it real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really weird. Because typically if I see something like that, it's because the dog's super soft. And when you move towards them, it's confrontational, but they're so soft that even just the slightest movement to them kind of makes them uncomfortable. Check out Shelley.
Do you think Shelley's submissive or soft in your interactions with her? I'm just curious.
Well, when I see her playing and stuff, like she's a typical golden personality.
Yeah.
When I've seen Corey work with her, like she's attentive, but again, you know, it's the setting, you know, that's a big factor. When she's on the walks, like I don't see anything on the walk, like, you know, because we hear like dumpster trucks and loud noises. We go into underpasses and things like that, and I've not noted or noticed anything of like her kind of being a little bit, you know, nervous or anything like that. So that's interesting. I'll have to double check that for sure. And you said you've paired it with food, like you go like up to her and like you give her a treat and you collar her up.
We don't know.
We don't do it often. We've done it before, and it obviously helps because she is very food motivated. But if that's just what we have to start doing is.
Yeah, I think so.
Rewarding that.
Yeah, I would take something and isolate it solely for that exercise, and you want to be as close to 100% consistent as possible. Okay, and I wonder if there'd be a difference between you going to her and her coming to you. But if she's apprehensive about it, if you try to call her, I'd imagine she's still gonna want to.
She's not coming. If she sees that thing, she's not coming.
Yeah, and then you're going against yourself because then she's learning you can call me and I can run away and get away with it, right?
Yeah.
So what I would do is, you know, for your walks or whenever you're going to get her ready to go, is have your stuff ready, have whatever that reward's going to be, you know, mozzarella or whatever, get a few bits of pieces, right? Go up to her, just on the approach, just give her a couple of freebies, clip the collar, a couple of more, and then clip your leash, a couple more, okay?
Yeah.
So you're rewarding multiple times within one small, you know, 30-second context.
Sure.
But dogs don't care about the size, they care about the rate of reinforcement.
Okay.
So if she got like 10 treats within a 30-second time span, she's like, oh, right. And then when we come back in, I grab her collar, couple, take off the leash, couple, remove the collar, couple, and then you're done.
Okay.
I keep repeating that and see if you see a shift. Since you're doing a much like a greater reward reinforcement, it should be a fairly quick turnaround. Okay. And you can always just shoot me a message on Instagram in a few days. I'd give it like a week or so. And it's just, if you notice any difference or not. If you don't know any difference, then I would just cut it. And,
okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll try it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we were curious. So we obviously know you guys do the pack walk, which is awesome because it's like a constructive walk. Shelley loves to sniff around. How should we be deviating or, figuring out if we're taking like a leisurely stroll where she can sniff around versus we're taking a walk and you're going to follow by my side? Should it be 100% where she just kind of follows by our side, or is there easy walks?
I do 80 to 20. So 80 structure to 20 play.
Okay. That's
my personal preference. When we do the pack walks here, it's pretty much work the whole entire time. We take them out to potty beforehand. We go for a long walk. We come back. We potty break at the end with the occasional rest under shade. But for the most part, it's work because they get all the play when they're here, right? But typically, like with my guys, if I went for an hour walk with them, it'd be 45 minutes of, they're in a tight heel, and then 15 minutes would be of them playing.
Okay.
And you can do it as one big chunk, or you could do like 5 minutes in the beginning to get her potty out, do a walk, 5 minutes in the middle, and at the very end, 5 minutes at the end. Because as a puppy, the long walk could possibly lead to her having to go potty just before having to go inside.
Okay.
Do you so sometimes still when we walk her, she'll pull really hard, which I think might be why she hates the collar, because she's like, choking herself sometimes. Do you what do we do about pulling?
The simplest tool would be the gentle leader. Are you familiar with that?
Okay, we've done that. Yeah.
Okay. So
with Maddie.
When it comes to training, the common kind of thought process or kind of viewpoint on it is at some point my dog knows and I don't need these things anymore. Okay. And I don't care what method you use, but that's not true. Okay. Whether you're using positive or negative, a no pull, harness, gentle leader, slip chain, prong collar, e-collar. If you remove the tool, you lose control. Okay. And the simple reason is Shelley is a 3 to 4 year old child. Okay. Forever. She's not going to get older. She's forever a 3 to 4 year old child. So for children, you constantly have to tell them what to do, right? Go wash your dishes, go put up your toys, go get ready for school, blah, 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 right? You have to tell them what to do. At no point with that child kind of be dependent or not independent to the point where they could get a job and, pay the bills, right? So for a dog, it's similar. You have to tell them what to do. And if left to their own devices, they're going to do what they want to do, which is typically you walk slow because you have 2 legs and I have 4 legs. So I'm going to be over here. I want to sniff this and pee on that and meet this dog and jump on this person, right? So for the gentle leader, it gives you the most control. And the way you use it is also important. So if you put the gentle leader on and then you give her a full 6 feet of slack, she's still going to be ahead of you, right? But she's just not going to have as much pulling power. So what we do is, if you watch us walk in the pack and you look at the leash, it's not tight, but we have it short so that we limit the dog's range of motion. And if I have to do anything with the leash, it's much easier, as opposed to if I give the full slack, I have to be up here, right? To get any communication to the dog. So with the gentle leader, I simply shorten it and I leave just a little bit that slack. And if she starts to forge ahead, I can use a little bit of tension on the leash to slow her down, to keep her more so at my side.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not so much in training as it is what I call dog handling. So on the pack walk today, there was 3 dogs that we've never seen before. They were here for the first time. And they were walking on the pack walk like no problem, because my handlers know how to use the leash and to give them the most control, so they're able to take a number of dogs out, even if they've never been out before, and still look as if they know what they're like. The dog knows looks as if they're trained.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Where do you want to go next? Jumping on people? It's probably the most annoying
that's
thing
the
she
biggest,
does.
yeah.
Okay. Did Maddie go over correcting that with you?
Sorry, what?
Did Maddie go over correcting that with you?
Yeah, she helped a lot. So when she was a baby, obviously the coffee table was the easiest thing for her to jump on, and we were able to curb that really easily and quickly.
Okay.
Now it's the higher countertops, and now it's the when we're at the park, it's jumping like crotch shots and all that.
How did Maddie have you correct Shelley for the coffee table?
Well, the coffee table she did. So yeah, I think it's 2 separate issues. But there's the coffee table, we did like bumping. So we would like basically bump her with our legs and say no.
Okay.
And that it took a while, honestly, which is why Maddie said she's like resilient, because it like weeks of us doing that every time, like multiple times a day. So yeah. So we did that, but now it works. And by the way, in that she would like some days she would just jump on it and stand on it and look at us. Like, what are you gonna, all 4 legs on the table, knowing that we hated it. So I don't think she was that submissive. But now we got that out of her.
Okay.
And now she jumps up, like we have counters in our kitchen that are high, so she can't get up on them, but she wants food. We try not to leave food out there, obviously. But like if we're cooking and we turn our back, she's up there. Mm-hmm. So we could start bumping her again.
And we do occasionally, yeah.
Occasionally. We're not as good about it probably. But then we, again, because it took a long time with her the first time, and that was without anything up there that she wanted. So and then now we just say no. And if she does it again, then we put her in her crate, kind of like cool down. And it works, but she still does it. Like, so. She knows what to do.
When we correct behavior, my how do you say, opinion or interpretation of success is that the dog stops doing it, right? So ultimately, I don't want counter surfing, period. Okay. So when we talk about, are you familiar with the word, like the term aversives?
Like the negative, you mean, right? Like
negative, right? Punishers, right? So technically, like the bumping into her with your legs is an aversive. It's a punisher, but it's a very low level one, which is why it took weeks. Okay. And when we deal with puppies, I understand puppies really well, but I have to get the owners to understand their puppies, right? So if Shelley did something to her mother, her biological mother, how do you think she would be corrected?
Maybe a nip.
Right. She would nip or bite her.
Yep.
And it's not the mom being aggressive, but that's how they correct each other and their puppies. And dogs are physical animals. They, if you're at the dog park, I'm sure you've probably seen at the dog park, dogs biting at each other, like they charge and like make this an aggressive kind of approach just to back the dog off, right? And that's them setting boundaries. And in some cases, it escalates to like, a full-on bite or, a very good, nip. And then the other dog yelps, but then responds and like runs off or whatever, right? So that's Shelley. Okay, as sweet and as cute as she is, that's Shelley's nature. Okay, and when you do the knee bump, in comparison to a dog bite or a dog nip, the scale is very low, right? There are other methods in correcting dog behaviors. It's just a matter of whether or not the owner's comfortable doing those types of corrections. Okay, so I can give you what the approaches are. Whether or not you use them is completely up to you. Okay. So correcting things, stopping a behavior is actually easier than teaching a behavior. So teaching Shelley to sit for people to be pet and teaching her just not to jump on people, teaching her not to jump on people is easier than teaching her to sit, okay? Because it's, I don't care what you do, just don't jump on the person.
Yeah.
Right, so she can rub up against them and, you know, walk up and, you know, put her shoulders and all that stuff. And some dogs will just even sit on their own because they're thinking, well, there was a correction for jumping, so I'm not going to do that. Right? Is one is one thing is called a pet corrector. Have you ever heard of that? It's, you can get on Amazon. It's a little red can, you know, like this big. It's just compressed air. Okay. And it's usually effective with puppies at 2 months. You know, it's just it makes a sound. And the theory behind it is if the puppy does something you dislike, you spray the can, and the sound itself is what deters the puppy from repeating the behavior. Okay. In some cases, the puppy doesn't care because, again, they bite each other. So then I'll tell the owner, you know, spray them, but spray them on the rear end. So now there's contact. And because it's compressed air, it has a weird feeling. So it tends to freak the puppy out. So then they run around yipping or whatever, they recover, but then they learn like, oh, like if I do this behavior, this sensation happens, I don't like it, so I'm not gonna do it again. Okay, so that's like the simplest one that I start people on. Okay. Are you guys familiar with Cesar Millan?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. He does this thing where he calls a touch, right? Where he'll go like this, and he'll like, I call it a jab, but he'll like poke the dog or something. And he does it to mimic a dog bite. Yeah, exactly. He'll go like that, and he'll like make contact with the dog, right? So he's using physicality, and he's saying, I'm mimicking a dog bite to the best of my ability with what I have, right? So then if Shelley were to jump on me, you could correct her, or I could correct her using that approach, right? But again, dogs bite each other, okay? So Cesar has a really good intensity. I have good intensity because I've been doing it for like 10 years, right? But if you try that approach and it's not adequate or appropriate to Shelley's behavior, she's going to continue to repeat it, okay? So then we have escalation. So I was raised old school. I was spanked. And you know, one thing that I did wrong might give me 2 spankings, and another thing might give me 10 spankings, right? So in that sense, the intensity was in terms of like how many spankings I got. For a dog, the intensity is how intense is the physical contact that you're making with Shelley, right? So then, like, let's say she jumped on the coffee table and I gave a quick, you know, Cesar correction. She herself should just walk off without me needing to do anything else, because she's going, oh, I didn't like that correction. I'm going to remove myself off of this object. And then maybe 2 weeks goes by and she doesn't even try to jump on the coffee table. And then one day she thinks, well, what happens today? Right? And then I correct her again, even firmer. And she goes, oh, okay, just checking. And then she jumps off and then she never does it again. Right? Because my intensity was appropriate. It's typically harder for people to do this approach because of the physicality. They feel like they're hitting their dog, right? It's a psychological thing, which I understand. So with my clients, my puppy clients, like I start them with the soft stuff, the easy stuff first, like the redirecting with treats and, you know, the bones, and then the pet corrector. And typically, like, you know, 4 to 5 weeks later, they're like, Jesse, the puppy's driving us nuts. Like, how do we stop this? And I go, well, now you can use this approach, because they're typically more comfortable because they've already tried the nice guy approach, right? But then they struggle with that because of that concept. And I tell them, like, you know, dogs bite each other. And if a dog cared about your puppy jumping on the coffee table, they'd go and bite them, you know? Obviously they don't care because they're like, it's just a cop. Dogs don't think like that. But for the human, it is a problem, right? So there's that approach as well. Typically if you're doing a physical correction, you're going for between the ribs and the butt where it's that soft spot. Okay. And it shouldn't take a whole lot. If you've done a good correction, you know, she'll like receive it and then kind of like just leave the situation. Okay. And then I don't console, I don't pet them, because then you're negating your correction. Right? Like like when my mom spanked me, it was like, she just let me to like recover from it. I cried and all that stuff, and it toughened me up essentially. And that's actually how dogs toughen up their puppies, is through that physicality. Okay. The last one for like indoor stuff is what's called a bonker. It's a rolled up towel. Okay. And you can use rubber bands to keep it, to have it hold its shape. And I can send you videos. I have 3 that I usually send to people. And it shows you how to make one, how to use one, and it shows one with the trainer actually using the bonker real time. Okay. But again, people have a hard time because of the physicality. So the bonker is essentially where it's getting its name from. You bonk the dog. But it's a rolled up towel. It's firm, but it's soft. So you're not going to cause any kind of actual physical harm, right? And it tends to be pretty effective unless the dog is like super stubborn, but in most cases, it's actually pretty effective with my clients when used appropriately. It's just getting used to the fact of like bonking your dog or even throwing it. Like if she's like, let's say she's jumping on the counter and you're on the couch, right? You can actually throw it. And for the dog, a moving object tends to be a deterrent, okay? And it's not gonna screw her up psychologically. It's not gonna traumatize her. It's not gonna make her not like you, okay? It's just setting a boundary of you don't do these behaviors. And if done correctly, those behaviors should start to decline to where it's like, okay, I don't even have to correct her anymore.
Right.
Okay. And in the videos I'll send you, if you look at the trainer, he's correcting the puppy with considerable force. And it's a boxer puppy, and he's training him with treats. And then the puppy's just like all over the trainer. So he gives the correction, and then you see the puppy come back in a very submissive manner. And he points out, the puppy isn't scared. The puppy is cautious because it's going, what garnered the correction? And when the puppy comes back in a more polite fashion, the gentleman then gives the puppy treats. So the puppy learned, oh, if I'm all crazy and I'm jumping all over you, correction happens and I don't get treats. But if I approach you respectfully, I don't get a correction, but I get treats. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's a balance between positive and negative. Okay. Right. And in my opinion,
okay, we can try the corrector. No, go ahead. Sorry, Jesse.
No, in my opinion, a balance of both is the best way to train, because positive reinforcement is great for stuff you want to see again. Aversives are meant for things you don't want to see again. Okay. So like, if I said sit and she didn't do it, I wouldn't bonk her for it. Okay. There are corrections for obedience, but the bonker or the pet corrector or the Caesar touch wouldn't apply there because that's a different type of correction.
Got it.
Question so far?
I had one. So one of the things we've been doing, like as an aversive, even though it may be wrong, was when she does stuff she knows she's not supposed to do, we put her in her pen for like 5 minutes, like a little time out. Do you think that's effective or no?
Because dogs don't reflect. That's a human thing.
Yeah. Right? Okay.
So
it does make her know she's not supposed to do it. Like,
well, remember, so not supposed to do it is she just doesn't do it. Does that make sense?
And I'm not pushing back on you at all. I'm just trying to describe, like, she'll like walk into the kitchen, and if she thinks we're not looking, she'll jump on the counters. But if she knows we're looking,
sure. So she's pressing a boundary, right?
Yeah, she knows.
Yeah. So the concept of like it's she's not supposed to do it, as opposed to knowing she's not supposed to do it, right? Because trust me, when you put the appropriate aversive to something, it's done. So the aversive is technically an aversive the way you're applying it, right? Like time. but it's not
Yeah.
effective because she doesn't reflect,
Okay.
which is why she keeps repeating,
Yeah.
right? So
So
like,
it might be effective because she just like calms down and
right,
comes out like a little bit cooler of a dog. So it still might be helpful, but not for the behavior we're trying to address.
correct. What you're doing is you're de-escalating,
Yeah.
right? Because if she's bored or she's overstimulated, that's what's leading to like jumping or like being on the table. So when you calm her down, because jumping isn't the problem, right? Jumping is the outcome of a problem. And so like, let's say for Shelley, it's excitement. She sees people, I love people, I'm excited, right? So she gets to this state and that emotion has to go somewhere, which then leads to jumping.
Mhm.
Yes.
So if you address the excitement, technically we shouldn't see jumping. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But you
Yeah.
can also just address the jumping so that she's
Correct.
still excited, but she runs over and she wags her tail and she walks around the person. That would be so nice.
Right. So like my dogs, when I come home, you know, they're happy, their tail's wagging, but because I corrected them, and like for like the person, if a dog jumps on me or on a person, you can use like the knee bump where you raise your leg.
Yeah.
But some people use it as a blocker, and then
Yeah.
the dog always jumps on them because it's just a block. When actually
Yeah.
you want to make contact,
Right.
right? And some like,
Yeah.
you know, I had a dog, it was a pit, like just charged at me and jumped at me. He feels so friendly.
Yeah.
And the first time he got me off guard and he punched me in the nose with his muzzle.
Yeah.
So then the next time I came over, I was like, well, I'm going to be ready for that. And then when he came, I got him with the knee. He fell on his back, right? And like just got up and shook it off. And then was like, just still happy to see me. You know, there was no, how do you say, trauma done, but he learned, don't jump on Jesse.
Yeah.
So that's another thing you can do with jumping when it's towards you.
Yeah.
But technically, when you have the appropriate aversive, there should be a very steep decline on the behavior.
Okay.
And like maybe in 6 months, she forgets or gets so excited that she jumps. Well, then you would just correct her again.
Yep.
Okay. Other questions?
I have a couple more, but I'm
No, yeah.
hogging.
Go
Do you
ahead.
want to
No,
go?
you got the list.
No, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So we covered counters and people. Okay. At some, which one do you want to cover? At some point, it would be nice to be able to eat food in front of her without her jumping on us. How do we ever do that?
Okay. So when it comes to aversives,
Yeah.
because it's not so much about teaching Shelley to like you could like tell her go to your bed, right? And she's on her bed and you're eating your food.
Yeah.
But if her desire for being close to you while you eat is greater, she's not going to do that, right? She's going to keep coming over. 2, it requires you to teach something to fix something else, right? So it's similar to like the jumping one where I said you could teach the dog to sit, or you could just teach the dog not to jump, right?
Yeah.
So in this case, it would be your aversive. So if I'm eating my food and I'm going to use the bonker approach, and Shelley comes over and starts watching, I would bonk her, and she goes crap, right? And she moves away, and she gives me space. Maybe she's still looking at me, but she gives me 6 feet of space, and I go, yeah, that's fine. Like I just didn't want you right here to me, right?
Yeah.
Or like where you're sniffing around my plate type of deal.
Yeah.
So you're establishing a boundary of when I'm eating, give me distance. I don't care what you do, but just give me distance. Because that's what another dog would do. If they were eating their food and Shelley came by, they would bite her, snap at her, and say, this is my food, go get your own.
Yep.
Okay. So think anything behavior related that you'd want to stop, right? It's aversive. So jumping, barking, chewing, licking, begging for food, all that stuff is as simple as just don't do that.
Can you use, like, let's say we go, we'll try the pet aversive thing, or pet, sorry, what was it called? Pet,
Corrector?
the sprayer. And then, or we go with this to start, and then if that doesn't work, we try the bonker. But like, if we do this and we're trying to do a few different things at the same time, would you recommend just like starting with one, or just do them all? Like,
Do them all.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Because as humans, like I've made multiple screw ups in a day, right?
Okay.
And got consequences for each of them.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't like, let's focus on this one, but we'll keep letting you screw up with this other stuff.
Yeah.
You know? Because you're just teaching her not to do it. You won't overload her with information. When you're teaching things like sit, down, come, heel, finish, center, all that stuff, that's different because you're teaching skill sets. Right?
Okay.
So like, it's like trying to learn piano, guitar, violin,
Right.
saxophone. That's too many things at once.
Yeah.
Right? So
Okay.
stopping things, super simple across the board.
Okay.
And the intensity would be pet corrector, hand correction, and the bonker would be like in terms of that spectrum, the greatest immersive.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Got it. Okay. Then my last one is maybe like bad on us, but I just would love your thinking on. So one of the things, so she gets up, she used to when she was a puppy, she'd get up at like 7 a.m. usually.
Okay.
And then she'd want to go out. So we'd let her out. And then like we started on the weekends letting her into the bed with us to just get like a little bit more sleep.
Oh, sure.
And so she'd lay with us and it was great and she's snuggly. And now fast forward like 6 weeks later, she wakes up at 5 a.m. Wants to get in the bed with us.
Oh, sure.
So she's now getting up at like 4:30 to 5:15 every day.
Okay.
We let her out. She comes in bed with us every morning. Like, honestly, we love snuggling with her in bed, but I don't want to get up at 5 for the rest of my life. So how, like, I don't know, any thoughts you have on like how to get her to sleep in a little bit more? Should we not be letting her in the bed? Like what?
So it's I don't have a problem with it. I go by the dog's personality type and how well behaved they are, right? Shelley's a good pup and you want to have her in the bed. I have no issue with that. If you don't want to wake up at 5 a.m. And she's good overnight with holding her potty, I have no problem with her going to bed with you guys. And then you avoid the whole waking up at 5 o'clock, right? Now, if it's, well, we only want to have that snuggle time in the morning, which is fine, and you want to crate her until that time, then I would ignore her until you decide when it's time to snuggle, right? So if that's at 7 o'clock, then I would just, wait her out. The only thing is if she's whining to go in bed with you, you have to ignore the whining, right?
I know, yeah.
You could, if the kennel is in the room, have bonkers there. And at 5:15, when she whines, you can bonk the kennel. It's not going to make her afraid of the kennel. Okay.
Yeah.
As a correction of we're not going to let you in until we're ready. Right.
Yeah.
And then at 7 o'clock, you get up, you let her out. Okay, Shelley, you invite her up, and then she snuggles with you till 9 o'clock. Right.
Yeah.
So you can fine tune it how you want it. I have no problem with how you go about it.
It's just the short-term pain of listening to her cry at 5 a.m. for however long it takes.
Correct. And that's if she gives it up.
Right.
Okay. Because technically, by ignoring your, there's a term for it, you're allowing essentially.
Yeah.
If you see someone stealing something at the store and you don't say anything, like you essentially just allowed that to happen. Right.
But we have seen you guys like bonk the top of cage. So we do that once in a while if she's crying for absolutely no reason and she gets it really quickly. I should stop that. So
yeah, you could do that. And then if you don't want to get out of bed, just have a couple of bonkers there and just fling it at the kennel.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not gonna hurt her.
Yeah. And because people then they get worried about, is the puppy going to be scared of the kennel? And I tell them the only way to make that happen is if you make the entire time Shelley is in the kennel unpleasant, and then when she gets out, it's done. So then she thinks, man, every time I'm in that cage, it sucks the entire time. Like I don't want to be in there, right? But if it's momentary, and she's like, okay, a towel hit the kennel, and I didn't like it. Why did that happen? And then she whines again, and it happens again. She goes, oh, every time I whine, something comes flying at the kennel and it bangs it. I don't like it. What happens if I don't whine? Nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and she's not afraid, I'd say, of the kennel. She just wants to be with us in the morning. I mean, we can leave her and she won't cry. She's fine. You know, it's just like, it's time now for me to be in the bed with you. And I really like that.
You know, it's you know, dog stuff. Like even an adult dog would do that.
Yeah.
My pit, you know, so I let my dog sleep in the bed, and my pit on occasion will randomly express her glands, and it sucks. And you know, I kick her off, and then she'll just be at the edge of the bed, like just staring. I'm like, no, like, you know, this is gross. Like I'm tired of this. But then like a week later, she's back in the bed. You know, so I get it. You know, she can't help it. It's she just started doing it like in the past year, so I'm sure it's age related.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, I get the same stuff too, so no big deal.
I guess on that same, you know, line of thinking, obviously, when the world goes back to normal, we'd love to be able to leave Shelley or take a vacation with the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
Would you, you know, letting Shelley do a night of boarding just to get used to it? Is she fine just to kind of be thrown in there for a couple of days when it needs to be done? Like, how do you kind of tiptoe into?
So for the most part, sending her to daycare is typically, or sending a dog to daycare is typically enough, because it's really just the leaving the owner, right? We've had people leave a dog here, like they'll do the evaluation and then they'll do a boarding day or boarding night just because it makes them feel better. I don't have a problem with either. You know, I was just hoping to do what makes you happy at the end of the day. But for the most part, we get dogs that do daycare and then randomly they need boarding. You know, and it's the first time and they're perfectly fine. I would suggest though, I'm assuming you guys are home for the most part, like all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. Is Shelley free with you during that time, or is she kenneled at all?
No, she's free.
Okay. What would life look like if it wasn't for quarantine? Would you like have a 9 to 5?
Yeah, I work from home a bunch, so we'd probably do like the 2 days daycare, kind of like we're doing now, which is kind of why we started that, to get her in that mode of not being with us all the time.
One thing that I recommend, that's good, just getting her away from the home and stuff. But also just what I've been having my clients with puppies do is to kennel their dog even when they're home. Okay. So like, let's say they work a typical 9 to 5, but quarantine has them working from home. I'll tell them, if you know Monday to Fridays 9 to 5, I highly suggest you 9 to 5 your puppy in the kennel. Okay. And then midday, they'll take them out for a potty break if they're going to get a dog walker or whatever. And then they're back in the kennel until they're done with their work day. And even though they're not leaving the house, it's just getting the puppy used to that structure of 9 to 5, I'm in a kennel. So this way, when they leave, the biggest thing is going to be separation anxiety.
Sure.
You know, because they're so used to being around the owner. So at least they're creating some kind of separation, even though they're home. It's not the puppy always in their immediate, like at their feet, sleeping, you know, type of thing. And even if they do like half a day, like some of them will say, well, can I do 9 to 1? I'm like, yeah, that's fine. It's better than nothing, you know, but I try to get them to replicate life with the kennel or application of the kennel as best they can.
Yeah.
How long would you say like puppies are typically in a kennel?
For me, it's the first year from the date or the time that you get your dog. So if you got Shelley at 2 months, at a year and 2 months is when I start experimenting with freedom in the home when I'm gone. With an adult dog, if I get the dog at 2 years old, then until the dog's 3 years old, they're kept in the kennel. And the reason for this is, for puppies, they go through a lot of developmental stages, chewing stages. So if you're gone, you leave your puppy, and this actually happened to a client. Before they signed up, they left their puppy out, destroyed everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you got a puppy, you know, come on.
Yeah, I mean, like that's why we don't leave her in the bed at night, because I'm worried she'll wake up in the middle of the night and destroy things without us hearing her. Honestly, she's not a bad dog. She just is a dog.
Yeah, you know, she'll get into mischief, right? So, and then for an adult dog, it's because, you know, I get this quite a bit, is people adopt the dog, they feel really bad. They're in the shelter and they kennel all day, that they're like mi casa, su casa, and then they leave and the dog tears up the house. You know, so that year gives allows the dog time to acclimate to the routine. Oh, you leave 9 to 5, but you come back and then we go for a walk type of thing. And same thing for the puppies, aside from the chewing and developmental stages. You're also getting her acclimated to like the schedule of life and the routine of things so that it's not so stressful, once things go back to normal.
Right. Okay.
So it does feel like really hard. Like I would struggle more with leaving her in a cage like 8 hours a day with a bathroom break in the middle than I would like bonking her.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Like, because she's like cooped.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, dogs are denning animals. So it's just like her little cave. And puppies and dogs tend to sleep 16 to 20 hours a day. So you're just isolating where she's sleeping for, those 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's my suggestion. Again, at the end of the day, your dog, your rules, your house.
Yeah.
But it's better to do that now than to wait to see, hey, we got to, go back to work. And then, Shelley's having issues or like, something happens where you have to shift your whole lifestyle where it's like, oh, like I got a job now where I have to work 9 to 5 at an office and Shelley's being left, right? Or you can send her here 5 days a week. I don't care about that.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably what we would do, honestly, but
I always tell people you definitely want your dog, and she's been fine. Like she's great in the kennel. Like we've never had any issues with her in the kennel. But we've had people that send dogs that aren't crate trained, and then it makes, obviously we're a training facility so we can handle it. But, if a dog has to be left with someone else who's not a trainer and the dog has to be kenneled at their house because of their schedule, and then it's not, how do you say, transferring well because the dog was never really put in that kind of environment is where there's potential kind of like hiccups and stuff.
We probably leave her in the kennel without us here 5 hours a day, like 5 hours at a time once a week, where we just go out and do something.
Sure.
But only once a week. And then we also leave her like for a few hours here and there, probably another time a week or two.
Sure. I would suggest just keeping track of what you do.
Okay.
And, if you can do 4 hours a day or whatever, something's better than nothing is how I go about it.
Okay.
Chances are Shelley's not going to have a problem, but I'd rather you have already had some groundwork done than to be thrown in a moment where it's like, oh crap, like we should have done it.
Totally fair.
How long should she be able to hold it at this point?
How old is she?
She's 7 months.
7 hours technically. So the rule of thumb is an hour per month. And then the general outing schedule is 3 times a day, morning, after work, before bedtime. What's your schedule like now?
Morning, lunch, evening.
Morning, evening,
Yeah. Oh, so she's on like a three time a day schedule already.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
She probably goes though 4 times because we just let her out in the yard like once of those. So we take her for 3 walks and then we let her do her nighttime business. Just
sure. Yeah, I mean that's not out the ordinary,
Yeah.
I would try, let's say like on a Saturday when you guys are both home, is take her out in the morning and then see, and just like, don't let her out again. And then just look for suspicious behavior. Does she walk to the door? Does she walk to the back door? Does she start sniffing around? The typical signs. And then clock it. And if you go like, 9 hours before she gave signs that she had to go. To give you an idea of where she's at in terms of her bladder and bowel control. And then you can go back, because all that tells me is she's got good control. Yeah. So it doesn't, and taking her out 4 times a day doesn't inhibit her potty training, because I know she can hold it for a long time. It's only when, like, especially in the beginning, when I get clients that have like a little outdoor patio to put like a little fake grass patch, or they have a yard, they could just let their puppy out every hour. And I'll tell them, your puppy's learning to go every hour as opposed to learning.
We did that.
We got that problem. And Maddie
we did that. Maddie helped us with that one. So.
Yeah. So at this point, I would experiment just to see,
Sure.
try it one day, see what happens. And if you see it's at 5 hours, then you're like, okay, she's at her 5-hour schedule. And if you want to push her towards, that 7 to 8 hour, what I do is, at 8, I take her out the potty. I wait at 1 o'clock, 5 hours later, I see some suspicious behavior. Instead of taking her out, I place her in the kennel for an hour, and I'm then pushing her bladder to go on a 6-hour schedule. Do that for a couple of weeks, and then I push it to 7 hours. Okay. My guys will hold it as long as 12 hours, sometimes even a day. They'll hold it. Cause my females hate going out in the rain. So they're like, nah, screw that. We'll just wait, Fireworks, they hate the fireworks. So they'll literally hold it. They'll just sleep all day until everything's done. And then I'll take them out and they'll go. So dogs are capable of holding it for a very long time. Yeah. And sometimes I have really long days where I'll take them out at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and I won't be back till 8, 9 o'clock at night. And they'll hold it, and I'll take them out and they're good to go.
Sure.
So.
Okay.
Well, I guess our last question is, where do we go from here? So I think our daycare package is over, but obviously we would like to continue doing that. Any recommendations for next round of?
Yeah, we really love you guys.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Seriously.
I think in terms of the package, I think Shelley is fine with the regular daycare package.
Okay.
I don't think you need another Head Start because it's just food-based training. Unless you wanted to learn tricks and stuff, like roll over and sit pretty and things like that, then we could teach her more things. But in terms of advancing her training to be applicable in the real world or in the real life context, puppy Head Start wouldn't really do you any good. Okay. That's just me being honest with you. Yep. But definitely with the daycare, we reinforce the training still. She's still being reinforced, and she goes on the walks and she gets her plenty of play. She just wouldn't get that half hour of clicker training or what have you.
Got it. Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Anything else from you?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, this has been great. I really appreciate it. Thank you again for what you do. And I feel calm meeting with you guys.
We also know that Shelley has some followers on Instagram. I hope that is not annoying. It's friends of ours that love her. So.
Oh yeah, she does.
They did say we hope we're not bothering them. What?
All the time. I think it's four or 5 people.
Yeah, there's a little crew that loves Shelley a lot. So
no, it's fine. We respond and all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. I know one of them loves Shelley and Bob.
Yeah. We hear about Bob all the time from our friend group. We're like, how do you know about the dogs at Canine Perspective?
Yeah, Bob and Jerry have their own little how'd say
fan club.
Yeah, and Shelley does as well. We don't mind it at all. It's perfectly fine.
Okay, very good.
I was gonna say, if you have any questions, feel free to always reach out. Or any concerns and things like that. And does Shelley have an Instagram of her own, or is it just you guys?
She does, but we're not good shepherds of it. But it is Shelley is a golden girl.
Shelley's a golden girl.
Yeah, we'll DM you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. If you need anything else, you just let us know, and then we'd be more than happy to take care of that for you.
Yeah, awesome. Same for you. If we can do anything for you, we really appreciate it. So
yeah, just telling your friends and sharing and stuff like that always helps. The COVID, unfortunately, because we were just building our how do you say we were getting momentum. We were doing really well and on track and just kind of breaking even in terms of a business. And then COVID hit, and I was like, oh. So now we're restarting things. But yeah, definitely just telling your friends helps a lot. Sharing things, if you like it, we really appreciate it because it just shows people what we can do and what we do for dogs and things like that. So
yeah, we'll do that
for sure.
Awesome.
All right, thank you
so much, guys. You're welcome.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.